All right, so now for the first time in more than 2 years, all 20 living hostages are back on Israeli soil. There are no living hostages under Hamas captivity anymore. Hamas released these hostages in two batches of 7 and 13 earlier in the day. Donald Trump and other world leaders are later set to gather for the Gaza Peace Summit, which is in Egypt. U.S. President Donald Trump declared the war in West Asia is over as he began this trip first to where he is right now in Israel and then to Egypt for the Gaza Peace Summit. He'd come to Tel Aviv to mark the release of Israeli hostages by Hamas after more than 2 years and is now at the Knesset where he is due to speak. He has also assured the reporters before heading to the Knesset that Hamas will disarm. Of course, later in the day, a lot of the unresolved issues and the issues in the 20-point peace plan which were not touched upon will be addressed, or at least that is the hope. We also did hear just a short while back that Abdel Fattah al-Sisi also extended an invitation to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was on a call with him earlier, and he will also now be heading to Egypt for the Gaza Peace Summit. All right, for more on this from Jerusalem, now we're joined by Stav Cohen, who is a soldier in an elite reserve unit of the IDF. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. We would really... All right. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. If you could just tell us what your assessment of where things stand right now is, because of course it is a big achievement that all the 20 living hostages are back in Israel. However, going forward, where do you really see things headed from now?
Thank you very much for having me, first of all. And here's the thing, I fought in Gaza in 2014, previous Gaza war, which began after Hamas and the other proxies of Iran kidnapped 3 teenagers, Israeli teenagers, into Judea and Samaria, and then same thing happened. We went after them, got into Gaza, fought Hamas, and we got out before we got the job done. Nowadays, it's a holiday in Israel. Everybody are thrilled, including me. But this enthusiasm will turn into a national grief as soon as we'll see those 28 more coffins that are about to come to Israel. Besides that, Hamas has already recruited over 7,000 soldiers more, terrorists more, and they spread all over Gaza, meaning you'll see very soon more attempts of Hamas to hijack civilians, to invade IDF bases, just like they did last week, where 6 of them tried to get in. So from my perspective, I'm optimistic, yet I stay realistic at the same time, and I fear that we'll see more of the same soon enough.
Mr. Saab, and also, of course, I would like to ask you, a lot of this hinges on Hamas's disarmament. How do you see the second phase of negotiations going and how things pan out on that front? Do you think, because Donald Trump has assured that that will happen, we also know that they're going to have that peace summit in Egypt later today, to which I would also like to clarify now that as per Israeli Prime Minister's office, even though he has been extended an invitation, he will not be joining that summit. That being said, be that as it may, we know the Palestinian Authority is going to be there. This question of disarmament is going to come up. The question of statehood, that is something that's going to come up as well. So what are you expecting?
I'm expecting from Abu Mazen, the head of the Palestinian Authority, the very same thing that he did up until this day, which is saying, and I quote, even if I'll have him, Abu Mazen, if he'll have $1 left, I will give it to the Shaheed, to the prisoners in the Israeli prison, meaning the PA, the Palestinian Authority, is a terror organization just like any other, just that they are more organized. That's the difference. And about Hamas and the next phase of that deal, you see, Hamas is the only military in this war that is fighting with civilian clothes, yet will you have ceasefire, all of a sudden they have uniforms. What you're about to see over the next few months is incomplete deal. So they're gonna keep fighting with a different name, with a different title, with a different symbol, but it's going to be the very same people with the very same purpose, which is radical Islam taking over the Western world. Israel is just the front line, but I mean, you can see in Europe, you can see in the States, they are going after everybody.
All right, like to that, an incomplete deal, I would just like to come back to the point that you made earlier, and I want to ask you, do you think the 20-point peace plan that was brought in and what we're seeing now, do you think it does enough to ensure legitimacy and insurability going forward as well? Because that is really the need of the hour, and to ensure a sustainable, viable and lasting peace. Do you think if that's not happened so far, do you think that can happen in Egypt?
No, I hate to be the party pooper, but Egypt is one of the most anti-Semite countries in the world, including many of including many things that Sisi, their president, actually said. He said, "You see, you meaning the Western world, you do peace as a result. I do peace as in order to get to my result as a tool. So peace agreement." Two-state solution, Palestinians, those are all Western terms. Here in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, it's desert. It's desert society with tribes, and you're fighting among each other in order to survive. That's how it goes here. I don't see that plan actually happening. I can see why everybody are afraid from Trump, and this is why Hamas wants to survive, as an organization, even if they'll have another name. So they're doing what they need to do in order to survive, But I don't see that plan actually has anything to do with peace. Peace, Western term, doesn't go with Middle East. I'm sorry. This is how I see things.
All right, because some may argue that you're being quite a skeptic here, and I just want to clarify. Are you saying that peace here is just being used as a tool and perhaps a means to an end? Is that what you're saying?
As far as Egypt, as far as Hamas, as far as Qatar, as far as Turkey, yes, peace agreement and that plan included is just merely a tool in order to get what they truly want. People that will say that I'm skeptical are welcome to fight like I had. When I was 18 in Gaza, I fought Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Fatah, GAP in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza, you name it, I was there. And I'm just out of thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of IDF soldiers. When you meet them in the battlefield, there's no room for PC, for politically correct. They are on drugs. They are motivated by hate. All they want to do is kill as every last Jew on earth. And let me tell you one quick last thing. When I fought in Gaza in 2014, many children were being sent by Hamas on bicycles in order to make us, the IDF, stop our shooting so Hamas could change their position and, make their position better. They also have kids transport weapons from A to B. The very same kids that we never took their shot were actually the very same kids who turned to be the October 7th massacre on, 10 years later. So we will never harm kids, and this is our weak spot. They know how to use our weak spot, our humanitarian against us. But it's all about education. As long as Hamas will have control over Gaza, as long as they'll keep pumping their false narrative and propaganda into the children's minds, we'll have more of the same. Just like 2014 war Gaza, just like 2023 October 7th war, and all of the terror attacks that you have in between, right?
Mr. Cohen, if I could just come in there. On ground, does this essentially mean that nothing changes? Because what about the millions of Palestinians who've been displaced and who are just stuck in this crossfire? What happens to them next? Of course, a lot of questions, as I've been saying, have been left unanswered, and you've agreed to this as well. But is the situation on ground going to change? Is the needle going to move on that front at all? Or are you saying we're just going to keep seeing a repeat of this?
We will. Yes, the answer is yes, if Hamas will stay in power. Tell you what, I believe that I care about the Palestinians way more than Hamas cares about the Palestinians. Whenever I fight in Gaza and I see civilians, and it happens all of the time, I personally, me, Stav, not an IDF spokesperson, okay, merely a soldier. I give them my water, I share with them my food, because, it sucks. It's a war zone, and they're thirsty and they're hungry. So we share. We literally give them our things. We'll carry their belongings and help them to go from A to be to get to safety. Hamas, on the other hand, hijacked an entire society, all of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, using them as human shields. So we will keep seeing more of the same if Hamas will stay in power, because you don't have to take my word for that in order to realize what they wrote on their charter, which is the destruction of the state of Israel. And just the other day, the IDF released Yihya Sinwar's notes, personal notes, with his vision to what he called Palestine, to Israel. So there you have it.
All right. Mr. Cohen, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your insights and your
Thank you.
perspective on this.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.